In my time covering the world of cleaner, greener, safer and smarter transportation, I've got to meet some big names in the auto industry. I've met Elon Musk several times, Carlos Ghosn, Mary Barra, and I've learned how each of these people have viewed electric vehicles and what their goals are for electric vehicles moving forwards. My trip to India would not be complete without talking to Mahesh Babu, who is the CEO of Mahindra Electric. Mahesh, thank you for spending some time to talk to me today. Could you tell me how Mahindra Electric fits into the wider Mahindra and Mahindra family?
I would say Mahindra Electric is conceived to be a technology company, in particularly EV, within the group. If you look at Mahindra Electric, we are now positioned in such a way that we are part of the automotive division of the Mahindra group, and we are closely associated with all the EV activities, what's happening around the group. And our responsibility is to bring in the technology and dominate the EV market in India and look at how we will grow globally, both within the group and as well as we are looking at opportunities to work with other OEMs as well.
So perhaps could you tell me what the hurdles are to electric mobility in India today?
I would say the hurdles are about right now on the working together of the stakeholders. Second is understanding of the customers on the benefits of EV. And third one is about the infrastructure, like charging. And not but the least is today the challenge of cost of technology of EV, particularly the batteries and the EV systems, which are posing a challenge. But all of these have an action plan globally as well as in India. But India is very sensitive to the cost factor and hence needs to be worked very carefully, and we have to come up with a very unique, innovative solution for India, taking from the learnings from abroad.
Elsewhere in the world, most automakers who are making a transition to electric vehicles start their process by focusing on high-end luxury premium electric vehicles. But Mahindra Electric hasn't done that. Can you tell me why?
We strongly believe that any technology has to impact the life of the people and improve something in the society. So if you look at US and Europe, what you are talking about, they started off with very high car penetration. The mobility is around cars. So you have close to 800 to 900 cars penetration per thousand in US and about 500 to 600 in Europe. But India has only 20 cars to 25 cars penetration per thousand population. But our new mobility needs are going to change differently than what has happened in Europe. So if an OEM in US or Europe says, I want to make a high-end car, it makes sense because the whole mobility is running around cars. If you look at India, India is a different country. We have the highest two-wheeler population. We have a large three-wheeler last-mile connectivity. For India, I think our focus is to address the mass market mobility and the last-mile connectivity solutions, playing a vital role in four-wheeler fleet. Those are all the priorities for the society, and that's what we are playing as Mahindra Group.
Many people remember the G-Wiz or the Raver electric vehicle. In some parts of the world it was quite popular, in London for example, but it was also ridiculed around the world for its small size and low speed. Can you tell me about the evolution that Mahindra Electric has undergone to go from that very ridiculed car to the vehicles that we see behind us today?
So when we Mahindra acquired Reva and we started investing, I think our investments were towards technology, were towards market penetration on proving the concept into economic viability, social viability, and making the customers yearn out of electric vehicle. I think from there we changed the strategy of making not just the car, because as Mahindra Group, the automotive sector has the knowledge of making a car. And as Mahindra Electric, when we rechristened to Mahindra Electric, we are very clear that our focus is towards an electrification of a vehicle. So if you look at our portfolios after that, we have one of the best sedans, which is the electric E-Verito. Then we made an electric Supro. Now we have come up with electric three-wheelers, which is the Trio. So we have changed our strategy to align to electrifying Mahindra products. Now we are getting into even electrifying SsangYong and other group products, while focusing on the last mile connectivity of Trio with us. So the strategy is completely changed, I would say, from where we started and where we are today.
Now, in addition to the hurdles that we've already talked about, a lot of automakers complain that there's just simply no way that they can make money with electric vehicles. Has Mahindra Electric solved that problem? Is it turning a profit yet? And how does it view making money in the electric vehicle world?
We know the future of mobility is electric. The automobile industry as such is getting into a disruption based on electric, autonomous, connected and many more. So we believe EV has very high chance of penetrating into automobile in the near future. So that's why we have made our first EV vehicle in 1999 and then we continue to invest on it. The investment what we are doing is going into a capital investments which is making products, our new R&D center in Bangalore, a new plant for capacity expansion. We have a belief that EV will make profits in the future and we have a clear plan how we will reach there of profitability in EV. Without that we will not do a huge investment, so any board will not do it. So we have a very clear roadmap how we will reach profitability in a reasonable time.
Every Mahindra electric vehicle from the Trio through to the e-Verito has telematics built in as standard. Can you tell us how and why telematics are so important to the journey in electric vehicles in India?
I think, as I said earlier, the electric mobility changes the complete ecosystem of mobility from the current fossil fuels. So when we do that, I think it's important that we understand the ecosystem much better because you need to depend on a charging, you need to plan your travel and you need to plan in such a way that you use the energy to the optimum. So all our vehicles till now, whatever we have sold are all connected. So what we do is we create algorithms and logics based on the use cases of Mahindra electric vehicles in India. We have run about 100 million kilometers of electric mobility and we use the data to create one of the best energy efficient usage condition in field. For example, we exactly know how the vehicle behave and what is the best optimum to use the energy at 45 degrees in Delhi in summer. We also know how to use it when it is in winter and at altitude places. So all the data what we are collecting about the drive systems of electric and the energy storage system of the battery is used to generate value to the customers back and give it back to them with a highly efficient product. So if you look at Trio, for example, I would say is one of the most energy efficient three-wheeler available in India. And we could achieve this based on the knowledge of the connected vehicle and the data on about electric mobility in India. And I strongly believe we also create a lot of value. We send weekly reports to customers. We send the status of charge to customers, and customers can even go to the car and actually before they go they can even switch on the AC and make it in summer cool before they get into the car. So a lot of value added services we can give to the customer satisfaction and it goes well with the EV technology.
In addition to other automakers focusing on premium vehicles, there is of course this worldwide opinion that electric vehicles are for the rich and the wealthy, playthings, status symbols. That's not seeming to be the case in India. Can you tell us about how Mahindra Electric has changed attitudes to electric vehicles and where electric vehicles sit in the Indian market?
I think you have to look at Mahindra's perspective on this. We are the first one to invest in EV in India. And EV revolution till now almost is led by Mahindra in India. That's given. Now, if you look at how this disruption is happening in Indian industry or compared to the US, let's look at the US. Did the EV disruption happen within the big OEMs or it came from outside? Yes. Look at Mahindra. Mahindra, the revolution happened within. We being one of the largest player in SUV also disrupted our own business model by investing in EV. The belief is that the future is EV, but there is going to be a customer who wants something on the objects of desire, what I would say, the passion of driving an SUV. So we are in transition now. Now this transition will take longer time and we don't know when it will happen. So the reality is we are serving our customers who are passionate about mobility in the segment in objects of desire and in future technology like EV, which will become an objects of mobility as well. So we will play both the fields till our customer wants it.
Mahindra Electric has more experience with electric vehicles than any other company in India, 100 million kilometers of data. It's researching building its own vehicles as well as building vehicle components for other companies to build their own electric vehicles. Which is more important to Mahindra Electric? The vehicles it makes itself or the vehicles that it helps other companies to produce?
Our focus mainly is on technology. So we will invest on EV technology, and we will try to electrify Mahindra Group and even other OEMs products, because India right now is looking at make in India of all these products, and Mahindra Electric will play a vital role. So that is, I would say, the primary objective of the company. While we do this, we also have something like Trio, which is a very innovative product, and it needs disruption where Mahindra is right now not strong in three-wheelers. So Mahindra Electric, being a technology company, can play a vital role there. And the third one is the Nemo, which is our mobility platform for connected all this EV ecosystem into one platform, which will add services to our customers. I think we will play on all this, but with primarily focusing on EV technology products serving both Mahindra Group and as well as other OEMs, whoever wants us to be served.
In addition to other automakers focusing on premium vehicles, there is, of course, this worldwide opinion that electric vehicles are for the rich and the wealthy, playthings, status symbols. That's not seeming to be the case in India. Can you tell us about how Mahindra Electric has changed attitudes to electric vehicles and where electric vehicles sit in the Indian market?
I think this journey is, for us, have started long back. The first electric vehicle made by Mahindra is a Bijli, which is a three-wheeler electric vehicle to transport mass mobility, shared mobility concept in way back in 1999. If you look at our current strategy, our focus is also on EV, more into fleet of four-wheelers, last mile connectivity with Trio, and shared mobility with Supro. And even if you look at our products in the future for India, most of them are aimed towards how to transform mobility in shared space. If you look at India today, the prediction says, most of the studies says by 2040, almost 40% of the miles traveled by Indians will be in shared. So either it may be in mass mobility or shared vehicle or shared ride or shared, I would say, the self-drive. So it's catching up a lot. It's catching up a lot. And India is in a cusp of a transformation on mobility where our growth rates needs to grow in a very sustained way. So we are already clear, Mahindra, in India. India needs a lot of mass mobility in EV because we have challenges on pollution. India has an energy security of almost 80+% of oil import. So the technology should transform something to the country, something to the society, and something to the business. We believe that EV is in that space. While having said that, even personal space we can't ignore, because personal mobility brings in a lot of technology. If you look at most of the technologies are in personal cars today. So we will be focusing on mass mobility market, and we will also play a little bit on personal mobility when it becomes mature. We'll be ready.
The auto rickshaw, or auto as a lot of Indians like to call them, is a primary form of transport for last mile connectivity. At the moment, most of those autos are powered by petrol or LPG, but the Mahindra Trio is all electric. How have you been working with auto unions and auto riders and drivers to educate them about how they can have a better life for themselves and their family by switching to an electric vehicle?
I think when we conceived Trio, we have conceived based on the requirements taken from many of the auto customers. Trio, in simple terms, even after the initial cost of acquisition, makes about 3,000 to 4,000 rupees, which is close to, I would say, $500 additional revenue to a customer right every month. So we have explained to them the operating cost, which is much lower, because electricity cost is very stable in India, whereas the fuel prices keeps fluctuating not only in India but globally. So the prediction of revenue for the driver is very clear. His operating cost is much lower, And most of the autos, 99.9% of the autos bought in India is financed. So basically, nobody is taking an upfront cost higher because you are going to pay every month a finance cost. And if you look at the lower operating cost of Trio, his total outflow is much lower than the regular auto. So it makes economic sense for an auto driver to buy a Trio. It takes time to communicate, but we have worked with auto unions. So far they are very, very enthusiastic to see the numbers and try it out.
Now, Formula E has really evolved the electric vehicle world over the last couple of years. Mahindra Electric has competed in Formula E since the very first season. Can you tell me how important it is for Mahindra Electric to compete in Formula E and what lessons you've learned from competing in the race series?
I think the racing is the area in which we learn a lot about stretching the technology, lightweighting, compacting, and a lot of performance related parameters, both on battery, motor, and anything we learn drastically from our racing. So our team closely worked with the racing team on optimization, learning from there to here, which we call it race to road. Learning happens from there, and even road to race, sometimes we give how to optimize and keep the temperatures low on the things, and that's how we look at it. So we are very happy that we could be able to learn and play a vital role. And it's also about passion, right? So EV is about, we are passionate about EV, and racing is closely associated with it.
I also hear that you're a fan.
Yes.
India's carbon dioxide emissions are the fourth highest in the world, and alongside China, India is often attacked for not doing enough to lower its carbon footprint and reduce emissions as a whole. Can you explain how Mahindra Electric is helping India as a nation reduce its carbon footprint and what challenges lay ahead?
I think we engage with both central and state governments on various policy matters. But what we are finding in the Indian government is actually proactive in all these areas, particularly on renewable energy. So if you look at per person CO2 generated, I think we are not very bad. When you look at CO2 generated per human being living in a country, I think we are not. Having said that, most of our power generation needs so far has come from either coal or fuel or gas. Our target of solar has substantially grown faster. In fact, our Prime Minister is now heading the Solar Alliance along with the partners around the globe. And the 20 gigawatt hour of solar installation, which was set up by 2020 target, has been already achieved in 2018 by the Indian government. Now we are talking about 200 gigawatt hours in 2030, and the way in which the government is now looking at renewable energy and hence came up with a FAME2 scheme on battery storage and electric mobility scheme. The government is very serious about electric mobility, sustained generation of power through renewables, and promoting a low carbon emission power generation in India. So we play a vital role both in central and state governments. What I would say that now not only the federal government but the state governments are very keen in catching up this new technology, because if you look at EV and renewables, both of them are sunrise sectors, and both of them are new sectors which generate a lot of employment, because the other industries are not growing to the rate substantially by the sunrise sectors like renewable and EVs. So most of the state governments even have shown keen interest to partner with industries like Mahindra Electric and others on new investment. That's how we have signed 2 memorandum of understanding with both Karnataka state as well as Maharashtra state to set up a state-of-the-art R&D and a manufacturing facility. So I would say our journey has started. In fact, we have shown leadership through our Solar Alliance, but there is a long way to go to work on. I believe by 2030 and 2040, India will be one of the, I would say, largest producer of renewable in the world.
So as you mentioned, India has upped its goals for photovoltaic solar panel installations. In 2022, it hopes to have 100 gigawatts installed, and by 2030, it's going to have 200 gigawatts installed. And right now, the country seems on target to achieve those goals. But in that same time frame, what are Mahindra Electric's goals for electric vehicles? And what are your personal goals for the company?
See, if you look at 2022, between 22 and 27 is the period we are looking at EVs becoming mainstream. I mean, mainstream means they become considerate set on any customer walking into a showroom to buy like your gasoline, diesel. They are going to consider EV as a main blood pressure because of two reasons. One, the EV technology cost is coming down due to mass manufacturing, and the challenges on meeting emissions is putting pressure on increasing cost on the fossil fuel vehicles. So between 2022 and 27 is going to be the critical period where EVs will become a mainstream in India in various segments, particularly I'm talking about cars. So our target is to become mainstream by 2022. It's just not the mobility target for Mahindra Electric. Mahindra Electric has also played a vital role. For example, we did trial pilot with a community called Aotearoa here, where we have tried to connect the solar, storage and mobility through our NEMO platform, where we said that we will work partnership with the community to convert that into a sustainable living. So when you connect solar to storage, the batteries, even the second life use of batteries from the vehicle, and you connect mobility through our NEMO platform, you can actually use the best form of energy to mobility. So our aim by 2022 is to bring sustainable communities by EV mobility integrating to the, what I would say, the grid and the charging infrastructure powered by solar. If you look at 2030, I think our large vision and my personal vision, I would say, is to create a mobility for 1 billion people, which I have talked about in some of the forums, is about creating mobility for 1 billion people is different than creating mobility in the past in the Western world. So if you look at our mobility, I think we'll have to look at shared, we'll have to look at mass rapid, followed by last mile, and then it's going to be a multi-modal mobility solutions. So our Mahindra Electric aim by 2030 is to create the most sustainable multi-modal mobility solution to our customers who are 1 billion people.
Mahesh, thank you very much. So there you have it. This is inside India's largest electric vehicle manufacturer. It's challenging the way that Indians view and use electric vehicles from the ground up to revolutionize the future, including connected mobilities, changing the way that these vehicles are produced, and even changing the way its factory facilities are built. That pretty much sums up my time in India, but as always, I hope that you like, comment and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on a single episode, and while you're at it, why not switch to New Zealand's only carboNZero certified renewable electricity company. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. I'm just about to head back to the US on a plane, but until next time, ka kite, see you next time.